Hello, my music-loving friends, and welcome to the Two for Tuesday podcast, your go-to podcast for deep dives into the stories and the histories behind some of the greatest musical acts of all times. I'm your host, Michael Pezent of Second Round Music, and today we're kicking off the first of a two-part exploration of the legendary rock band, the Eagles. In this first episode, we'll delve into the early years of the Eagles, from their formation in the 1970s to their dramatic breakup and a 14-year hiatus that followed. This story's filled with creative tensions, personal struggles, and the meteoric rise of one of the most iconic bands in rock history. The songs we'll talk about in this episode will be two classics, Lyin Eyes and the ever-iconic Hotel California. So let's get started. The origins of the Eagles can be traced back to early 1971 when two young musicians, Glenn Frey and Henley, crossed paths in Linda Ronstadt's backing band. Now, Frey and Henley quickly bonded over their shared love of country, rock, and pop music, and they soon set out to form their own group, one that would blend these diverse influences into a signature, let's just say they call it California sound. There are varying stories concerning the name of the band, and one of the stories I heard is that it came from a peyote and tequila-induced outing out in the Mojave Desert. Maybe this is just another one in the long line of reasons these guys couldn't get along. They can't even settle on how the band should be named. Well, I digress. To round out the original lineup, Frey and Henley recruited guitarist Bernie Leadon and bassist Randy Meisner, and the Eagles were born. Their early albums like Eagles, which was a platinum album, and Desperado, which was a double platinum album, showcased the band's remarkable songwriting talents and their ability to craft infectious, radio-friendly country rock hits. Songs like Take It Easy, which was a number 12 hit, Witchy Woman, a number 9 hit, Peaceful Easy Feeling, a number 22 hit, Tequila Sunrise, which surprisingly only made it to number 64, and of course the title track, Desperado. Although that song was never officially released as a single, it was, however, one of the first songs that Frey and Henley collaborated on, and is not only one of the band's most well-known songs, it also ranked number 494 on the Rolling Stone magazine 2024 list of the 500 greatest songs of all times. Now, on the next album, On the Border, which was a double platinum album, Frey and Henley wanted to move away from the country rock sound due to the really lackluster sales of the album Desperado. They wanted to go more into a kind of a driving rock sound. This would ultimately be the beginning of the end for Bernie Leadon, who was called a purist, holding true to his country, bluegrass, and acoustic roots. He did, however, encourage the band to recruit his old friend and high school bandmate, Don Felder, into the band. Now, this album produced some of the Eagles' first chart success with songs like Already Gone, a number 32 hit, and the band's first number 1 hit, Best of My Love. Now, their fourth album created even more success. One of These Nights, a 4-time platinum album, produced hit songs like One of These Nights, a number 1 hit, Lyin Eyes, a number 2 hit, and Take It to the Limit, a number 4 hit. On the other side of this short break, we'll start to see some chinks in the armor as the tensions start to rise within the band. Are you ready to take control of your finances and build a brighter future? Are you sick and tired of being sick and tired, feeling broke all the time? My name is Michael Pezent, a certified master coach, and I created Second Round Financial to provide personalized financial coaching based on the proven principles of Dave Ramsey's 7 Baby Steps. Our services include, but are not limited to, one-on-one financial coaching through Zoom conference or face-to-face, budgeting strategies, debt reduction plans, emergency fund creation, retirement planning, and investment guidance. Well, why choose us? Because we believe in empowering our clients with the knowledge and tools they need to achieve financial peace. With our guidance, you'll gain clarity over your financial situation, develop a realistic and achievable plan, and experience hope and confidence in your financial future. I have over 15 years experience teaching and guiding families in the Ramsey Principles, along with a degree in finance and work experience in the banking and insurance industries. So let's get started today. Go to secondroundfinancial.com and click Book Now to schedule your free consultation today. Welcome back. Now, as the Eagles' star continued to rise, the creative and personal tensions within the band began to escalate. By the time the album One of These Nights started taking off, Bernie Lyin was feeling frustrated with the direction. The band was leaving the country rock sound and moving into a more album-oriented, say, stadium rock sound. Now, he quit the band in 1975 by pouring a beer over Glenn Frey's head and saying, "You need to chill out, man." Also, Frey and Henley, the group's primary songwriters and kind of de facto leaders, found themselves locked in an ongoing power struggle, each vying for control over the band's musical direction and creative vision. Then, in 1977, Randy Meisner decided to leave the band, citing exhaustion and health issues stemming from an 11-month touring schedule supporting the Hotel California album. You see, Randy preferred not to be the center of attention and was quoted as saying, "I was always kind of shy. They wanted me to stand in the middle of the stage and sing Take It to the Limit, but I like being out of the spotlight." Now, Take It to the Limit had become not only one of the Eagles' most loved live performance songs, but it was also considered Randy's signature song. But he was also concerned about hitting those high notes in the song. So he and Glenn started having feuds over his reluctance to perform. Now, another smash hit album from the band, now get this, 2-time Diamond, 26-time platinum selling album that produced songs like New Kid in Town, a #1 hit, Life in the Fast Lane, a #11 hit, and of course the title track, and again by far the best known song, Hotel California, which was also a #1 hit and also a 3-time platinum selling song. Now, the departures of Lyin and Meisner were replaced by equally talented but also strong-willed Joe Walsh and Timothy B. Schmidt. Now, they only served to amplify the tensions among the band. The band's growing issues with drug and alcohol abuse took their toll, and it further strained the relationships between the members. Now, Walsh was believed, especially by Don Henley, to be too wild for the band. But Schmidt, on the other hand, was actually the bassist that replaced Randy in his previous band before he came to the Eagles, the Pocos. These cumulative pressures finally boiled over in 1980, after the release of the band's 6th studio album, The Long Run. Now, that was a 7-time platinum-selling album that also reached #1 on the album chart. It was the 3rd #1 charting album for the band. The album produced hit songs like Heartache Tonight, which was a #1 hit. The Long Run was a #8 hit. And the Timothy B. Schmidt tune, I Can't Tell You Why, also a #8 hit. They also released the live album, Eagles Live, which was also a 7-time platinum-selling album. They released my favorite song from that album in 1980, 7 Bridges Road. Now, we'll talk about that song in part 2. So on July 31st in 1980 in Long Beach, California, tempers boiled over into what has been described as the long night at Wrong Beach. Animosities between Don Felder and Glenn Frey boiled over before the show even began. The story is that Glenn got ticked off at Don when he said, "You're welcome, I guess," to California Senator Alan Cranston's wife as they were thanking the band backstage for performing at a benefit for Cranston's re-election. His anger spilled over onto the stage because they both spent the entire show telling each other about the beating each planned to give each other backstage when the show was over with. Don tells Glenn, "Only 3 more songs till I kick your ass, pal," near the end of the band's set. Now, during the song Best of My Love, Glenn turns and tells Don, "I'm going to kick your ass when we get off stage." Following a tumultuous tour, the band members reached a breaking point, but they had a contractual commitment to Elektra Records to make a live record. This is how the Eagles' live album came about. Now, by this time, Glenn Frey stayed in Los Angeles, while the rest of the band went to Miami to work on other parts of the song, 7 Bridges Road, because Glenn refused to speak to any of the other band members. They officially called it quits, and Glenn Frey and Don Henley did not speak to each other for years. Now, the 14-year hiatus that followed saw individual members pursue solo projects and other musical ventures. But the legacy of the Eagles continued to loom large. Fans longed for a reunion, and the band members themselves eventually realized that their story was far from over. And thanks to one of today's country music legends, fans got their wish. Now, we'll pick up there next week on part 2 of this series. But when we come back, we'll talk about 2 iconic songs, Lyin Eyes and Hotel California. See you on the other side of this short break. Hey guys, thank you for listening today, and I hope you're enjoying this podcast. If you are, please subscribe or follow the podcast, click the like button, share it with other music lovers, and please consider giving it a 5-star rating so we can reach a bigger audience. Now back to the show. The Eagles, one of the most iconic rock bands of the 1970s, produced a wealth of timeless music that resonates with audiences to this day. 2 of their standout tracks, Lyin Eyes and Hotel California, showcase the band's unique blend of rock, country, and poignant storytelling. So now, in contrast to the songs, Lyin Eyes, which was released in 1975 on the album One of These Nights, delve into the themes of betrayal and disillusionment. Written by Don Henley and Glenn Frey, the song tells a story of a woman caught in the web of deceit and torn between her desires and the reality of her situation. The inspiration for Lyin Eyes came from Glenn and Don's observation of relationships in Los Angeles, particularly the superficiality of love in a fast-paced world of fame and fortune. Now, the story goes that they were at one of their favorite hangouts, a place called Dan Tana's. Now, supposedly this place was frequented by some very beautiful women, and they surmised that these women were probably cheating on their husbands. And at that point, they saw one of these beautiful women with, I'm quoting now, a fat, much older, wealthy man, end quote. And Glenn said, she can't even hide those lying eyes. Now, they finished this song later when they were living together in a house in Beverly Hills. Now, Glenn was quoted as saying, the story had always been there. I don't want to say it wrote itself, but once we started working on it, it didn't really have any sticking points. The lyrics just kept coming out, and that's not always the way it goes when writing songs. The song featured a bit of a haunting melody, underscoring the blend of rock and country influences, which was a hallmark of the Eagles' early sound. Now, Henley and Frey crafted these lyrics to invoke a sense of empathy for the character, despite her flaws. The song's instrumentation, featuring smooth guitar riffs and rich harmonies, enhances the emotional weight of the lyrics. Lyin Eyes became a commercial hit, reaching number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart, and even climbing to number 8 on the Hot Country Songs chart. The song ended up being a certified gold record. This song was masterfully written and continually solidified the Eagles' reputation as great storytellers. Now, the next song in this discussion, Hotel California, this song could be its own podcast episode due to such depth of this song. It was released in 1976 on the album by the same name, and it is by far the Eagles' most famous song. I mean, it was obviously a number 1 hit, but it also went gold 3 weeks after it was released. And it now sits at a 7-time platinum record, as mentioned earlier in the podcast. The song also won the Eagles a Grammy in 1977 and was ranked number 49 on the Rolling Stone magazine's list, the 500 greatest songs of all time. And it's also listed on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's 500 songs that shaped rock and roll. Now, there's no other Eagles song that comes close to these numbers or the accolades. And let's face it, it would be hard to argue that Hotel California is far and away the Eagles' most popular song. Now, the song's writing credits are rightfully given to Don Felder, Glenn Frey, and Don Henley, who each had significantly different roles in its creation. But it only emerged from collaboration with Don Felder's unmistakable guitar riff on his white Gibson EDS 1275 double neck guitar. If you've never seen one of these things, It's a glorious looking instrument. The writing of this song was inspired by the excesses of the California lifestyle in the music industry, which they felt trapped them in a cycle of fame and fortune. So let's talk about the lyrics of this song. I know you might be saying, well, I've heard it's all about satanic worship. No, it's not. The lyrics depict a traveler who arrives at a luxurious hotel that initially seems inviting, but soon reveals a darker, more sinister undertone. This duality serves as a metaphor for the seductive nature of fame and the music business. Don Henley, the primary lyric writer, was describing the song as a commentary to the hedonism of the 1970s, where the allure of success often led to personal and artistic disillusionment. The line, "You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave," encapsulates this theme, suggesting that once you're ensnared by fame, escape's nearly impossible. Now, another lyric, "They stab it with their steely knives, but they just can't kill the beast." Well, that was a friendly jab at the band Steely Dan, who had referenced the Eagles in one of their earlier songs, "Everything You Did." Now, this little side story that I read about on a website from Far Out magazine from our brethren across the pond in the UK goes that the lyric, "Turn up the Eagles, the neighbors are listening," would wind up in this song, and whether it's truly an insult or not, well, that's up to the listener's interpretation. But the song itself is a pretty severe indictment about a less than loyal lover. Now, apparently, Walter Becker, one of Steely Dan's founding members, had a girlfriend who loved the Eagles, and she played them all the time. Well, evidently, old brother Becker wasn't too crazy about it. So the anger definitely isn't directed toward the Eagles, but the association probably isn't too celebratory either. In any case, there didn't seem to be any ill will. The group shared the same manager, and future Eagle Timothy B. Schmidt would contribute backing vocals on a couple of Steely Dan albums. And the Dan, as they were referenced in this article, would bring in Don Henley to try and record some backing vocals also. But that didn't go too well. Our boy Don got fired. But there didn't seem to be any hard feelings over that either. So then, to return the favor, Glenn and Don decided to reference Steely Dan in the lyrics of Hotel California. Now, originally, the line, "Stab it with their steely knives," actually had the band's full name in it. But according to Glenn, we just wanted to allude to Steely Dan rather than mention them outright. So when this article did go on to say that Steely Dan's take on lyric writing would also inspire the lyrics to Hotel California. As Glenn explained, one of the things that impressed us about Steely Dan was that they would say anything in their songs, and it didn't have to necessarily make sense. Okay. Is this actually a compliment? Oh well. Glenn did say that we were sort of trying to expand our lyrical horizons and just take on something in the realm of bizarre, as Steely Dan had done. That's very interesting. I'll let you make your own determination about those statements. Maybe statements like this drove this band apart. Well, I'm not passing judgment. So Don Henley goes on to explain more about the lyrics by stating that the Beverly Hills Hotel had become the focal point of their lives at the time, and that it was a mythical place to them. He said, quote, "I'd sum it up as the end of innocence, round one," end quote. Now, Don Felder, who primarily wrote the melody and the music, more on that later, once said in an interview with Howard Stern that the song's lyrics were inspired by driving into L.A. See, at that time, none of these guys were from L.A. And he said if you drive in at night, you could see all the lights on the horizon and the images that ran through your head of Hollywood. So Glenn Frey, the primary lyric idea mind, or the one who provided the outline which Henley wrote the lyrics from, came up with the idea of writing a more cinematic type song. Once said in an interview with Cameron Crowe that he and Henley wanted to write a song to open like an episode of The Twilight Zone. He went on to say that they wanted to write a song that played out like a movie. And we wanted the character to enter, and this is another quote, "a weird world peopled by freaky characters and become quickly spooked by the claustrophobic feeling of being caught in a disturbing web from which he may not escape. So, yeah, as Glenn was quoted earlier, something bizarre. He sure got that right. So there you have it, guys. That's the real story behind the lyrics and the meaning of this song. Now, musically and melodically, that was Don Felder's brainchild. The track was submitted as just one of about 16 or 17 tracks to the band as ideas for the song for the next album. Now, the band would work to refine the original track, but the demo was originally recorded by Felder in his rented house on Malibu Beach. Felder brought influences of Latin and reggae music, and I found it interesting that Don Henley actually gave the song its first working title, Mexican Reggae. The song's production is equally notable, featuring intricate harmonies and memorable guitar solos by Joe Walsh and Don Felder. They recorded the track with Don Henley on lead vocals 3 different times. Twice at a studio called The Record Plant in Los Angeles, and finally at Criteria Studios in Miami. They first recorded an opening guitar riff, but it was decided to be too high even for Don Henley's tenor voice. So they reworked the song and backed it down to B minor from the original E minor key. The second recording, however, was then determined to be too fast. Now, in the Miami studio, the band fine-tuned the instrumentation and the lyrics and recorded numerous complete takes. 5 or 6 of those best ones were selected, and the best parts of those tracks were then spliced together to create the released version. They actually ended up having 33 spliced edits in a 2-inch master. In the final section of the song, they feature a guitar battle, so to speak, between Joe Walsh on a Fender Telecaster and Felder, surprisingly enough, on a Gibson Les Paul. Now, this recording took the two of them sitting and working together for around 3 days. The two initially started improvising, but Henley insisted that the recording would follow the music that was first recorded in Felder's demo. In production, however, some of the improvisation did make the final cut. Now, Don Henley decided that this song needed to be a single, but Don Felder had his doubts, and the record company was also reluctant to release it because, as you can recognize, this song is over 6 minutes long, and this far exceeds the general song duration that radio stations will play. The record label requested that the band shorten the song, but they held strong and refused. They obviously won out in the end. This song does a really nice job of blending rock music elements with folk, classical, and let's not forget the Latin and reggae flavors, which contribute to the timeless appeal, making Hotel California a staple in rock music history. In this first episode, we explored the formative years of the Eagles, from their humble beginnings to the heights of their success and the dramatic events that led to their eventual breakup. We also talked about 2 classic songs, Lyin Eyes and the ever-iconic Hotel California. Remember, you can hear me perform these songs over on my YouTube channel, but we'll discover in the next installment the story of the Eagles doesn't stop here. Stay tuned for part 2, the reunion years, where we'll dive into the band's triumphant comeback and their continued impact on the world of rock music. We'll also discuss 2 more classic songs. So thank you for joining me today on the 2 for Tuesday podcast with Michael Pezent of Second Round Music. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts. I'd love to hear from you. Just type your comments below if you're listening on YouTube, or drop me an email. Or you can also, on some of your platforms, you can actually respond and send comments through them, Spotify being one. And give me your recommendations on future artists or songs. You can also click the description to hear me perform those 2 songs. Don't forget to subscribe or follow this podcast. Click the like button and share it with all your music-loving friends. So just remember, we love you and we need you. Tune in next time for part 2 as we continue to explore the stories behind the music we love. God bless you.